genesis of that flick, and we'll take a look at the clip in a second, but just give us a
little...
We're
play the clip again?
Oh yeah, we're gonna wake everybody up.
All right, I look forward to it. We're playing that one.
You guys ready? Okay, so let's tell a little bit about what the film's about.
Red State. Red State is this flick we just made. It's a little horror movie. I call it a horror movie. Everyone seems to have an issue with that. And they could be right. I'm not quite sure what to call it. I think it's a genre mashup movie, and I think that's why I have a real hard time identifying or classifying it. I can't even say, oh, it's just a Kevin Smith film, because it doesn't fucking look or play like a Kevin Smith film. So it's a weird movie to try to find a box for. We've had a great time with it. We decided to keep it for domestic distribution rather than sell it. Me and my partner, John Gordon, we started this little company called the Harvey Boys to produce the movie. And then through Smodcast Pictures, which is Smodcast, this podcast I do online a lot, we decided to release the movie under that label as well and take it out ourselves. And we just took it out on this like 15-city tour, which had zero fucking Warlock blood at all in it. And that was kind of sweet. And it was fun. It was really neat. It was cool. The idea behind it was kind of like, the movie's made for a very particular audience. I guess the people that are into the shit that I've done previously. So my audience, if you will. So I was like, let's just go directly to my audience. And every night was like a fucking rock concert. It was so amazing. Like you felt like a thin person at the end of every night, you know, just beloved and just like, Eddie, you can do no wrong, you know. I've lived as the other guy, and they're like, you're horrible and you're a fuck up and stuff like that. So this was cool. You'd get up, you'd show the movie, and then you'd get up and talk to them about the movie. And that to me was like, that's always what I've been interested in, not money and shit like that, although the money's fucking nice. But it's money's just freedom, right? It allows you to like try weird things and stuff and not have to, you know, answer to somebody else. Or I haven't had a real job in like 20 years, and that's what the money's kind of nice for. But at the same time, I didn't get into it for that. I got into it just because I like telling stories, and I like sometimes being funny and stuff. So with Red State, I wanted to, rather than be funny or try to be funny like I normally do, I wanted to try something else. I wanted to try a different kind of filmmaking that I'm really not known for at all and stuff. I've been talking about it a lot lately. I'm gonna stop directing film after the next movie, which is a hockey movie called Hit Somebody. So I figured like I'm on my way out. I'm out of like all the ideas that kind of brought me here in the first place, you know, in terms of the stories I used to tell, or movies that I've made, particularly the first 5, were very, they're just different, you know what I'm saying? They weren't like different good, they were just different, and they were kind of hard to classify. And I think for years there were a lot of people that were like, you're no filmmaker. They'd see the stuff I do and like, you don't follow any of the traditional rules of what is considered classical filmmaking or whatever. And for years I'd always bristle at that, never quite sure what that meant, or just like, but I'm trying real hard. And I think that now, years later, I get to see that like, they were right. I've never been a traditional filmmaker, and I think that's why it's been hard to kind of to stand out there with my stuff and identify as a filmmaker with other people. Like you look at, you know, like a Fincher movie, it looks like a fucking movie. Like a Kevin Smith movie, it just looks like a Kevin Smith movie, you know? It just doesn't play like anything else. And so for me, I was like, before I leave this job, I'd like to see if I could make a flick that plays like somebody else's. That's a weird thing to say as an artist. That's when you know it's time to go. When you're like, I can't make my own stuff anymore. I want to make your stuff. You know?
Is that an extra point that you want to score where people think they know you, and there's this understanding, oh, that's a Kevin Smith film?
Right.
And, you know, you get off on the fact that they're looking at Red State going, wait, I don't know this guy.
I like that, but believe me, I'm not one of those cats that's just like, you know, oh, I hate being Kevin Smith. I'm the world's biggest Kevin Smith fan, so it's very easy to be me and stuff. But you just want to change it up for yourself. Like I was talking a bit yesterday, and I've said it a lot recently. Like in the beginning, I came in as an artist. Like I wanted to be an artist, and then I kind of let that go because I started feeling like, I read some reviews early on where somebody was like, it's not art, it's fun. I was like, okay, it's not art, fun. That's what I got going for me, it's fun. So for years I'd always be like, oh, I'm no artist. I'd go out of my way to fucking be like, no, they're artists, I'm not an artist, and stuff like that. And then, I don't know, maybe it's because I know I'm only gonna make one more flick. Suddenly, there's a finite ending to it, and you go, shit, like I only got one more chance to be an artist kind of thing. And so, or in this case too. So going into Red State, I really wanted to make like an art film, for lack of a better description. Haven't done that in a while. Like did it back in 93, 94 with Clerks. And that was it. Like that, I made one art film and then quickly got absorbed into a system which, like, I love that system. I ain't bitching about it, but I was on one path and quickly wound up over here. And I was always curious about what would have happened if I kept going there. So I look at Red State as kind of the unofficial sequel to Clerks in a weird way. In terms of, it has nothing to do with it, but in terms of me trying to be an artist, in terms of the filmmaking, the steps of me as a filmmaking artist, as opposed to any other thing that I do, I feel like this is the closest in spirit to Clerks. Like Clerks was made with a certain ethos, and it kind of like, let's do it by ourselves. Nobody else wants to do this. Let's do it by ourselves. It's kind of what indie spirit is. Like, don't worry, we got this. And we had that going on Clerks. And then after Clerks, it just got easy for me. You know, somebody bought that movie, and enough people liked it. Where after that, people are like, what do you want to do next? What do you want to do next? So you don't have to struggle. You don't really have to like face a challenge of, will somebody make this movie? The Weinsteins, Harvey and Bob were wonderful to me for years. I'd go in there. They'd be like, what do you want to do? And I'd be like, this. And they'd go, okay. Never really said no to anything with the exception of Red State. Even let me make Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which is just like, what responsible studio would let anybody do that?
So what was their objection to Red State? How come that didn't pan out?
Well, it was weird. I remember Harvey goes, you know, he goes, Kevin, I read it, and I think it's, you know, I got through 10 pages, and it feels more like a Bob movie. This is a horror movie. He was the first one, I think, that might have planted the horror idea in my head. So I was like, okay, and I took it over to Bob Weinstein's brother does Dimension, that's the genre label, and he was like, this isn't a horror movie, Harvey's wrong. He's like, this doesn't play that. You know what a horror movie is? Scream. This ain't Scream. Take it back to Harvey. It's artsy-fartsy. So I took it back to Harvey, and it was like that scene in Coal Miner's Daughter where Tommy Lee Jones wanted to get married, and they kept sending from there to there to there and shit. And finally I got the message, like, neither of them want to fucking make it. And the message that they actually flat out said, like, Harvey goes, Kevin, I don't think an audience exists for this. And I was like, really? It's a $5 million movie. Like, I think I've got enough audience to pull that alone.
16,000 people have seen it in the past month.
But this was then. You got to remember, it was like 3-4 years ago. They were just leaving Miramax, starting the Weinstein Company. They wanted sure things, and Red State is the farthest thing from a sure thing as it goes. It's a very mid-90s art film, independent cinema. And that movie, nobody's paying to see that movie anymore, you know. But that's, like I said, it's kind of for me. Like I stepped off one path in '94 and then I stepped back onto the path, but it's 2011. So the film, to me, plays dated. Nobody else, though. I watch it with audiences. People seem engaged by it. And I don't know, there's some days where I watch it with audiences and we complain to like audiences of 1,200 and over every time we go out on the road. And sometimes I watch it and I'm like, wow, it does actually work as a satisfying, fun kind of popcorn fancy. But it's so hard to explain to people. It's so hard to like get the thought across of what it is, and it's so different in terms of like, people go, is it comedy? And you're like, no, not at all, but it's very funny. And then people are like, well, you say it's a horror movie, but it's not horror. But it's not a horror movie. There's no slashers, no supernatural element. And I'm like, the things that happen in the movie are horrifying. That to me makes a horror movie. So I don't know. It's nice. I like making something for the first time in a few years where people are like, I don't like it, and that makes me feel good. Normally, I've been trying to please everybody, you know what I'm saying? Especially when you make comedy, you want to be as funny as possible, communicate thoughts to everybody and shit. With something like this, when you're making art, you want some people to be like, I ain't into this. If you got universal consensus, you fucked up.
So you're looking for that reaction no matter what it is.
Yeah, I think with this one, totally. I mean, but honestly, it's not provocative in as much as like, oh, I hope you're mad at me and you don't like it. Of course not. I would like everybody to like it. We've just become realistic. We've been doing this for almost 20 years. You realize not everyone's going to like what we do. And this one going in is handicapped severely in as much as you're not giving people elements that they conventionally enjoy when they sit down and watch movies. There's no heroes. The movie's pretty much villains, wall to wall. It's like watching an episode of Challenge of the Super Friends, but the Super Friends didn't show up. And it's just leading to doom, sitting around going, how could we be even worse? You know? So in that way, it's, you know, going in that it's not going to be for everybody. The movie has, the Red State title has even a political connotation that would keep people away, but it's not a political film. Like I call it Red State simply because blood is red. You know, and it's like Blood State would have sounded stupid. So Red State sounded kind of cute. It's clever. But then you put it out there and people are like, so wait a second, man, are you against the Christians? And I'm like, no, I'm Christian myself. they're like, so what, are you against the government? And I was like, no, not at all. You know, it's like they're trying to look for the political edge or something. I mean, I guess I identify as liberal in as much as like I smoke a lot of weed, eat my wife's ass and shit like that. And then talk about it publicly. So, I guess in that way, I'm liberal, you know, in who I am, but I don't like identify politically as anything. So it's weird when some people watch the movie and criticize and I'm like, not what I intended. Like,
That's kind of the problem. The label situation with the movies, they don't know how to market stuff that doesn't fit in the box.
Totally. And also, I've been known in the past, like once or twice, making movies a little incendiary, like Dogma or something like that. And so they try to connect the dots and go like, oh, well, clearly you're this, you're trying to say this, and you're like, I don't know. No, there's at one point in the movie, I don't want to spoil it, but in order to show the clip, it's going to spoil some such shit. It's a little horror movie that takes place in the middle of nowhere, USA, where the three kids go into the woods to hook up with some lady they found on a Craigslist-like site who says she's going to have sex with all three of them, some MILF out in the woods. They get there, it's Melissa Leo is the MILF in question. And she gives them drugged beer, they pass out, and they wake up in a subterranean chapel, prisoners of this extremely religious extremist family, the Cooper clan, is led by Michael Parks, the great Michael Parks, who plays a very, what would you say, Fred Phelps-like character. The jump-off point for my villains was the Westboro Baptist Church. Those people are like, God hates everything. So they were kind of I used them as the model, the way that, like, I guess, Psycho and Texas Chainsaw used Ed Gein or Gein in Wisconsin as a model. Like, used them as the leap-off point. These cats never killed anybody, but I started watching them a lot more because my friend had interviewed them, Malcolm Ingram. I've known about him for years. I live in a very gay world, so of course I've heard about him many times. And my friend Malcolm Ingram interviewed Fred Phelps.
Just for Small Town Gay Bar, the documentary?
For Small Town Gay Bar, for this documentary they took up to Sundance. And, you know, I'd heard about Phelps, but I'd never seen him. I didn't know anybody had met him and shit. He's almost kind of like a fictional character because you see them everywhere and the things they say, him and his family, the Westboro Baptist Church, the things they say and do are so outrageously over the top, seemingly bad guy. I can't call it evil because they keep quoting the Bible, but they're so seemingly, almost cartoonishly bad guys. Like, I picture the Phelps family as kind of like Darth Vader and Voldemort fucked and had a butt baby. And that butt baby was the evil Westboro Baptist Church. They're over the top. People would show up at funerals of soldiers who died, hold up signs that said that soldier is going to hell, God hates America, shit like that. Prior to that, they went after the gay community, still do for years with their God hates fags campaign. It's just kind of deplorable people who then stand behind Christian faith as their defense. Like, hey, this is what God says. And for me, as a dude who identifies as Christian and shit, I just want to kind of stand out there as, no, that ain't me. That's fucking them. You know, it seems like a leap of a comparison, but because of people like the Phelpses and some of the really extremely right-wing Christian folks, folks who are just normally kind of Christian, just, you know, not the shove it down your throat, hey, I just don't want to kill people, I just want to, you know, love my neighbor as myself kind of down, rather than the person who's an agenda Christian who's just like, if you don't like my God, you're going to fucking hell and that kind of stuff. Like, I often think about the Muslims, poor Muslim community after 9/11, everybody, you know, takes shit as a Muslim. You're like, that ain't me, that's those fucking crazy fuckers over there. Same thing with, like, the Christian community is not as large or as wide, but it's still kind of dark and incendiary where you just want to be like, that ain't me, that's those cats over there. And so this movie was kind of about that. These cats were so cartoonishly vile, and at the same time, you don't want to take away their freedom to say what they want, because like I said, I want to stand up here and say whatever I want and shit. And so, you know, you kind of, they went to the Supreme Court recently, tried a case where it looked like they were going to be sued for standing there holding up signs and shit like that. It was one of those cases where you're like, I hope these people lose, but at the same time, as an American who likes free speech, you're like, God, I hope they win. And they did win. And so you got to support that kind of win, but you can't just sit there and do nothing while they sit there and hold up signs and be shitty and stuff. So I felt like, let me make this movie, which is kind of it takes basically my tool, the only tool that I can use against these cats would be satire. It's the only weak weapon I have. So why don't I just satirize these people, put them up on screen as like toothless clowns and monsters, and then it makes them, that's the best part I could do, it's the little part I could do.
Yeah, I think I heard you refer to them as sewers, not doers, in your film. They're absolutely doers. I mean, it's not just the law they employ, they're against the law.